Hi, I'm Nicola.
And I'm Keith, and we're here for TheatrePeople.com at the Vaults in Waterloo to interview the cast and crew of a new stage adaptation of Hunter S. Thompson's classic novel, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, a story that takes us deep into the heart of the American dream.
Last staged in London in 1982, this show will be appearing as part of the Vaults Festival later this month. You might already be familiar with the film version starring Johnny Depp, but we're here for a sneak preview of what the stage adaptation has to offer.
I'm here with Lou Stein, writer and director of the original stage adaptation, as well as this new production. So, for those who don't know, what is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas about?
It's about two things. It's about two guys on a kind of mad drug-fueled binge, trying to have a good time in Las Vegas. That's one part of it. But it's also about these guys, one of whom is a journalist, Hunter Thompson, searching for the heart of the American dream, which he's hoping to find in Las Vegas.
So, the last time it was in London was 1982. Mm-hmm. Why bring it back now?
That's a very, very good question. I mean, for a long time, because I was also involved as the first screenwriter for the film. I also did a spoken word CD with Harry Dean Stanton, so I've been through lots of incarnations of it. But I thought, well, you know, who would be interested in this kind of 70s thing now for a long time? So I had it in the bottom drawer. And then, frankly, I began to see people reading Fear and Loathing on the tubes, you know, and talking about it. But I also think it has a lot of important things to say about individualism and about, you know, right now we're in a society where, as far as I could see, we're all, you know, have to conform to the status quo. And Hunter's all about hell with all that, challenge that, question it, you know, shout out your credentials, go and be an individual in this world. And I think that's not a bad thing to be thinking about now.
So how does this production differ from the original stage production?
Totally different. I mean, first of all, I'm a much better director now. Also, we've got a totally different set of actors. There's much more physical theater in it, which there wasn't in the original. And also the immersion idea of theater, which wasn't as big then. So I want the audience to feel they're right in the middle of the desert, and you know the action is surrounding them rather than just them being kind of passive. And also the vaults, I think, is absolutely appropriate because Fear and Loathing is, and I hope always will be, a kind of underground countercultural story, and the vaults is underground and in its own way countercultural. So there's a nice matchup there.
How are you going to recreate the chaos, not only of the story itself, but of Las Vegas on stage?
Well, I think part of what you're calling the chaos, which is actually a pretty good word for it, is to look at the colors and sounds, and you know, our lighting designer right now behind me is working on those kind of fantastic, really loud 70s colors that were so much a part of, you know, films and culture, and you know, those fabulous costumes. I think that's part of kind of you know, of recreating the whole thing.
How relevant is a story about the American dream set in the 70s to a 21st century London audience?
That's a really good question. I mean, part of searching for the American dream is this whole idea that in America there's the rags to riches story, that you know, you have the dream that anybody can make it, etc., etc. I think it's more relevant now than it was when I first did it, because I think that through, you know, kind of, you know, online media, through films, through TV, Americana is much closer to young people now. I mean, they understand America now, and I think the idea of the American dream where, you know, anybody can become a star is huge. I mean, in the end, isn't that what X Factor is about? Isn't that what The Voice is about? It's about, you know, hey, I can do it, I can make it big. So in a way, I think it's actually much more relevant now than when I first did it.
And you're going to be exhibiting unseen artwork by Raoul Steadman alongside the show. How important do you think Steadman's illustrations are to a production of Thompson's work?
Well, the two are hand in hand. They're like a comedy team, in where you can't imagine Hunter Thompson's writing without Ralph's work, and vice versa. You know, but it's also so mischievous, and there's so much fun and comedy in it. And you know, I think people are going to be laughing along with the two characters rather than being some kind of weird trip, which I think the film encouraged. But I think this takes a very different view. This takes a view of, you know, yeah, there's something serious being said, but there's a lot of fun and mischief in this. And I think Ralph's drawings have that. If you look at them, they're really kind of grotesque, and hard hitting, and they're, you know, they sort of look at the ugly side of things. But also, there's always a sense of fun, and I think you know, by literally seeing Ralph's work on display, and also it'll be within the show. We've animated some of his work. He's going to be very, very present.
No production of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas will be complete without Raoul Duke and Dr. Gonzo, played in the film by Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. Playing the parts on stage, we have Ed Hughes and Rob Crouch, who are here with me today, fresh from rehearsals. So, why did you want to be a part of this show?
It sounded like a really exciting project. I mean, Lou has an affinity with Hunter S. Thompson. He has an actual direct connection with him. The Vault Festival sounds like it's going to be a very exciting thing to be part of. This is an exciting venue. It's a great part.
Yeah,
what else is there, really? Yeah.
So, were you fans of the work before you auditioned?
I think I'd seen the film, and I'd read the Hell's Angels book by Hunter S. Thompson, so I knew who Hunter was. Yeah.
I wasn't at all. I hadn't even read it, because it was always one of those things that just actually, you know, people would just bore you about at parties and just say, "Oh, it's brilliant, man," and actually. That sort of put me off, but when I read it just before the workshops, I got really excited by it because it is a fantastically funny piece of writing.
So, for people who don't know, who are these characters?
Well, I'm playing Raoul Duke, who is Hunter. He put himself in the story, which was a new thing in writing, which is where Gonzo, the term Gonzo came from. And so, yeah, I'm Hunter within the story, and with my man in arms.
Faithful sidekick.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
I didn't say that.
Yeah, so I'm Robin to his Batman. I play Dr. Gonzo, and Dr. Gonzo, that Ed just mentioned, is the sort of spirit of the age, really. Gonzo is, I think it's Portuguese, isn't it, for energy. And that sort of type of energy is provided by this Dr. Gonzo character. He's the sort of motor, he provides the craziness, he brings the crazy, basically, and that's what I do.
So
he's loosely based on a real character called Oscar Acosta, who was a Mexican lawyer who actually did accompany Hunter S. Thompson to Las Vegas. But the character of Gonzo is pulled quite a long way away from that. It's a sort of collection of insanity, really.
Now, there's a lot of drug use and narcotics in the book, and there's a lot of descriptions of how, I hadn't noticed, and there's a lot of descriptions about what people are like on the drugs. How do you prepare for a role like that? I mean, I presume you didn't go method, so how do you prepare for that kind of challenge?
I mean, at the end of the day, the drugs are an aspect, and there are physical effects that each drug will have. It's an up or a down or a visual or not, and so that will affect the way that you interpret that. But at the end of the day, you're still a person within that trying to do something, and so I found this, and in the first week of rehearsal I probably got too caught up in the whole druggy thing.
So
it's not about the drugs. I think that's the most important thing. I think that there is a sense that it's a drug story, but it's a story about people who, among other things, take drugs.
The drugs are a part of, just look at the madness of the real world. Actually, they go to Las Vegas and take drugs because to look at that place, it's insanity.
Yeah. The Fear and Loathing isn't the drugs. The Fear and Loathing, I mean, the story is about two guys that go looking for the American dream, and the Fear and Loathing is what they find.
The people, and what this world is the Fear and Loathing.
And the turn of the world from the 60s into the 70s. I mean, that's crucially what it's about. And I think, you know, people have talked about what relevance it might have today, and I think that in so much as there is a relevance, it is about the turning of the world. It is about eras coming and going, and about those kind of seismic shifts between those.
64 and the hope that came up through the sort of the hippie generation, and then that came in and got turned and twisted into something else. And the people from the 60s thought there was an answer in that.
And unpopular wars and dishonest politicians and all those things are completely universal.
So what we deal with, you know, Vietnam's there in the background, Muhammad Ali and all those sort of big things that were happening in America at that point and globally are in this show. So it gives a wider aspect of that.
And the narrative is fairly quite loose and train of thought. How much of it is scripted, and are you allowed to play around at all?
Ooh. Well, when you work with the director who's also the writer, that has its own set of challenges.
No playing.
There's no playing. I mean, there was a lot of playing. I mean, we did a lot of playing. There was a lot of dicking about went on in rehearsal.
It's not dicking about.
Well, not dicking about.
You were dicking about.
I was intense and very serious work, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, and all of that. But there comes a time when it's just like, no, that's it. that word there was wrong. You know, the rhythm is, you know, Ed was talking about the rhythm of Hunter's speech patterns, the rhythm is writing is so important, and Lou is such a fierce custodian of that it's just like, no guys, back on the book.
And actually once you get that, there's huge freedom in that.
Yeah. It doesn't mean it's not fun. I mean, I think, you know, the important thing is, I think, to emphasise that when you come along to this show, you come along to the Vault Festival, you're coming along to a big event, you know, it's going to be fun, it's going to be quite immersive, it's going to be very kind of technically blinding. Just looking out there at what they're putting together, it's going to be
we've been in a sweaty, horrible rehearsal room for 2.5
looking
weeks
just
now,
at each other,
just thinking this is a bit odd.
Yeah.
And so, but coming here and seeing all that will be going on around it visually, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
That brings you on to the final question. Why do you think audience should come and see this show?
Why? No, come and see it because it's going to be a fantastic evening. It's going to be a real event. I think they're encouraging people to dress up. It's going to be, I think, a really interesting insight into something that maybe you think you know. You know, I think a lot of people out there have assumptions about Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas that maybe come from a film,
it's the druggy book,
or come from some notion of it. But come and see it. It's a really very interesting piece of writing, and it's going to be a really entertaining and kind of visceral, lively evening.
And a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And there's parties afterwards. And
just finally, why should audiences see this show, if you had to sum it up for them?
If I had to sum it up,
Yeah.
It's extremely cool, it's hip, it's very funny, and it's unmissable.
Located directly beneath Waterloo Station, this is a truly unique venue and an iconic setting for such a great story. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas will be performed as part of the Vaults Festival from the 28th of January to the 8th of March, and tickets are now on sale at TheatrePeople.com.